Hello and welcome to the Mill. I am your host, Dusty Crane, and we have got a huge episode of the Mill for you because we got a huge news dump this week. It seems like Jamie didn't go to Gen Con this year, but he used all of that time to go ahead and just load us up on all kinds of goodness. So let's go ahead and get started. The first news that we encountered after Gen Con was that, or maybe it was even during Gen Con, but was we were getting digital adaptations of a couple of Stonemaier games that don't have one yet. The first one being Viticulture, which is being worked on by Digidiced. So, Digidiced? One of the two. Anyway, you may know them from, they did Isle of Skye, Terra Mystica, the Castles of Burgundy. So they've got quite the list of, they did Agricola and Le Havre, and so they have a ton of digital board game adaptations that are actually really good that, that pedigree is there. So we excited about Viticulture digital? I am. The second title that was revealed to us was Wingspan by Monster Couch. Now, you may not know a whole lot about Monster Couch if you only do your board gaming on mobile devices, aside from cardboard, that is. They're not really a mobile developer yet. They kind of looks like they develop for largely Nintendo Switch. They have PC games and PS4 games and Xbox One, but when you look through some of their games such as Die for Valhalla, which is PC, PS4, whatever, those platforms I mentioned, they are all kind of console games except for a PC. Wingspan is, however, they haven't announced what platforms it's being developed for, but it is already in the Steam shop, so we can be really certain, at the very least, it's coming out on PC. So that's another one. And actually, if you actually go out to Steam and look at the pictures, it looks really pretty. Like, it's not just, when you do Tabletopia or Tabletop Simulator where it's kind of the board. It's the way that they present information looks gorgeous. So I am super excited to see what Monster Couch is up to. So we have a couple of digital games coming for Stonemaier titles, but that was not the big news this week. The big news this week was we finally found out what Codename Clay was, and that was Jamie's civilization game, Tapestry. So let's go ahead and see what we know about Tapestry. Jamie is the designer, so this is his first title since Charterstone. The art is by Andrew Bosley, who did Everdell and Citadels and others. But I mean, if you've seen Everdell, this guy's work is gorgeous. The next one is, we actually have sculpts in this game, sculpts by Ram Brown. If you're unfamiliar with Ram, look him up, because what this guy does is, it's not necessarily where he's working for board gamers direct or board game designers directly necessarily. Jamie saw he kind of does clay sculpts for different board games. So I saw a picture of one that he did for Robinson Crusoe, and it was like a hut with leaves that were, kind of making up this tent. Incredible talent, and he went ahead and did the sculpts for Tapestry, Codename Clay, and that's actually where the code name came from, because Ram works in clay, and here we are with Tapestry here. It is a civilization game that plays 1 to 5 players in about 2 hours. Here's something that I found super interesting. For as complicated as you typically assume civilization games are and all the different moving pieces, the rule book for Tapestry is 4 pages long. And so I thought, okay, this has to be 4 pages of just wall of text, the smallest print you can get, but Jamie assured us that it is actually full of illustrations and graphics, and so hey, 4-page instruction, it sounds like it could be very approachable, and that, of course, is a very good thing. So Ram, it mentioned, was doing the sculpts. Included in the box are 18 pre-painted landmarks. And so how these landmarks work, maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit because I wanted to talk about the design diaries, which Jamie goes into, but these landmarks are rewards for if you are the first civilization to do something. So every player has their own civilization that they're building, and if you're the first one, we'll say that, you know, goes into, I think the picture here showed metallurgy or something like that, then you might be the first one to get a forge, and then your civilization gets one of these miniatures or these sculpts that you put on your capital map, which is another aspect of it, and then you have the first and oldest forge in, you know, the world that you are creating here together. That was another thing that Jamie had brought up, was that, well, it is a civilization game. You're not building out Earth. So while there is obviously inspiration drawn from the technological and the, you know, the cultural aspects, I guess, of Earth, it's not necessarily Earth that you're building. In fact, the map doesn't look like Earth. So a lot of possible hang-ups, or possible, I guess, even things people want to see may or may not actually be encompassed in Tapestry. One of the things that people have expressed either positive or negative feelings about was the omission of religion, because they felt that religion played an important part in civilization of Earth. Again, this is not Earth. So it is not in there for, I'm sure, the reasons you can imagine. Anybody could feel excluded or could feel that one religion is more overpowered than another. So best just to leave it, just to toss it, not even to get into it. So what stuff is in there, let's go ahead and take a look. But before I do that, if Jamie announced all of this stuff via Facebook live stream, and if you were wondering what was in that Facebook live stream, then there is an excellent summary on BGG by BGG user Nick Miraculous. Yeah, I saw what you did there, Nick. I like that. So Miraculous has, well, I got 2 printed pages of notes here, which is pretty cool. So the first print, I'm just going to go through some of his notes. If you want to see it, check out BGG. Give him a like. Drop him some Geek Gold if you have any. First print run is going to be 2,500 copies. If you're curious how that relates to Wingspan, which has kind of been notoriously hard to get, hopefully is available to everyone who wants it now. But the first print run of Wingspan was 10,000 copies, and about 5,000 went into the pre-orders directly from the website, and the rest became available. But this is 25,000 copies of the English first edition, and what's kind of cool is there's actually individually numbered. There's a little part on the box that shows you have this number out of 25,000, and you can't select which one you get. You can't say, hey, Jamie, give me, number 12, because that's my favorite number, or anything like that. But you can certainly know that you are the only person that has number 7,520. And, that's kind of cool. Your box is unlike anybody else's in that regard. Let's see here. We mentioned the sculpts. It's not a miniatures. It's not a dudes on a map civilization game. It is literally, you are going from, so to speak, inventing the wheel to nanotechnology. In fact, Jamie mentioned you could literally be at a place in your civilization where you haven't created a wagon yet, but you have nanotechnology drone assassins. Now, I don't know if drone assassins are actually in the game or if that's just something he was joking with us about, but you can see the wide range. And what I thought was interesting, and maybe this is true of other Civ games, but I don't have a whole lot of experience with civilization games, is you can have that kind of odd historical thing where maybe you haven't progressed beyond the wagon, but somehow you have nanotechnology. For some reason, that just tickles me. I like the idea of what that society must look like. So there are, and I'm getting into the design diaries a little bit, but there's asymmetrical civilizations or asymmetrical cultures, that type of thing. So they won't necessarily be exactly the same. You'll have different options, and Jamie gets into how many are actually there in just a minute. I'll get to that. There's also a tile laying element. So you are building out your your home city or your capital city. And if you are one of the first to kind of gather these technology and build these landmarks, you get to put these landmarks right on your capital city map and build that out. And each it looks like there's different capital city map types for the different civilizations. So that's pretty interesting. The game, like Jamie is known for, is mostly positive player interaction. So it's not going to be a mean civilization game where maybe you're plundering and tearing down other civilizations to build yours up. You're all kind of building your own thing. There is interaction, but it's positive interaction. And I'm sure Jamie may get into that in the design diaries, but I'm not sure yet. It hasn't been revealed how that positive interaction works. He mentions the game is loaded with Easter eggs, and all these are kind of in response to questions that came up during the live stream. Mentioned that the rulebook was 4 pages. From idea to the game as it is now, it took him about 18 months to develop. There are no expansions planned yet. Jamie put absolutely everything in the box, but he does have some ideas for some. Here onto the second page here, and again, I'm not even reading all the bullet point lists that Nick put together here, but the box does have a custom insert, though it's not a game trays. The box itself is about the same, size around as the Wingspan box, but it's deeper. Lots of variability in the Civilization game. It is not a legacy or a campaign game. You can play start to finish over and over, and where you get kind of that replayability is in the different civilizations. If there is something to be considered negative, maybe you would consider it negative, is, or maybe it's just negative, it's just the fact of the matter, this will be Stonemaier Games' most expensive game to date. Right now, I think that title is held by Scythe, has an MSRP of $90. So if you are getting in on the pre-order, expect to spend a little more than $90. How much more hasn't been revealed yet. I think Jamie typically waits till just before the pre-orders are announced, which is in early September. We should know more. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about these design diaries, shall we? Starting with August 8th, Jamie kind of talked about what a turn looks like in Tapestry. And he said, he kind of defines them advanced turns. So what this means is how, everyone takes, one turn and it just, goes around clockwise, but basically, how do you want to advance your civilization this time? You pay the cost, you gain the benefit, you actually have like a player token that will move, you gain the benefit, and then some of them actually have bonuses. And so basically on any given turn, you're deciding, do you want to become better? Does your civilization become better at exploration? And I'm looking at the pictures on the design diary. I'll pop them up here so we, kind of have something to look at together, and you're not just looking at me looking at my iPad. But yeah, so like that's how this is going to work. You're going to decide, how do you want to advance your civilization, in this particular turn. Jamie shows a little bit of the game board, and you can see kind of in this picture right here how, if you're the first one to metallurgy, then you get this forge, or if you're the first one to, I can't even read what that is, rubber, then maybe you get this rubber plant. I can't tell exactly what that building is, but what's really fascinating about these design diaries is you can see this picture right here is very, very busy. And Jamie had all these different tracks and this branching, kind of like what you'd expect from a Civ game. If you do this, now you can do this or that. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Jamie found an easier way so that at any given time, you really have 4 choices to make. There's 4 tracks. Your options are pretty much that: pay the cost, advance your token, and gain the benefit. So very easy actions or choices to make. The second design diary, Jamie talks about the landmarks, which I touched on a little bit more, but he talks a lot about working with ROM and what it looked like to get these clay sculpts to China from New Zealand, how stressful that was. Talks a little bit about landmarks, and there's also, which are fully painted buildings, and then there's also income buildings are options. There's, as I mentioned, 18 pre-painted. The landmarks, I guess also, as I mentioned, I guess I covered some of this already. The first person to get it gets the building. So you want to kind of do that. Now this mat right here is kind of interesting because I believe this is the mat that those landscape buildings set on. And you can see that there's different shapes, especially here, look at yellow, how this Rubber Works building actually kind of forms like a Tetris L or whatever. On your capital city map, you kind of have a little bit of a puzzle element to where you want to put these buildings and the space they take up. And you can see here, I'll just post a picture of it right here, that there are spots on the map that you can't build on because they're already occupied. It looks like orange dots or red dots. And the good news is, I guess you get bonuses for filling in these areas, and those areas that are marked already count for I guess points or for a way to gain resources. And these buildings take up a ton of space, so that's good, but also you can't put them in an area where, you know, this is blocked out. You can't have half your building sitting in a lake or whatever. So there's also kind of, I guess this is a call out to Feast for Odin, which I haven't played, but where it's kind of also like a little bit of a spatial puzzle. And that seems like kind of a cool idea too, is building out your capital city and there's space restraints. To me, that feels almost a little bit like tiny towns where once the map has already got some buildings on there and you got to make some choices on, do I want to put this here? I kind of block myself off from here. Whether or not that's actually how it plays out, I don't quite know, but we shall see. August 10th, or today when I'm filming this, Jamie talked about asymmetric civilizations. Now, Jamie's done asymmetry with, Scythe. It is something that, I don't know if it's hard to do. You don't see a whole heck of a lot of people doing it. Root does it. Like I said, Scythe does it. But what's kind of cool about this is each civilization has different strengths and different weaknesses. But according to the design diary, you're not actually stuck with, if you get this civilization and you get a couple of choices early to begin with, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go this route, but it's just something that makes you different from another civilization. And Jamie posts a couple of different actual civilization mats that are in the box, and he talks about one of them is craftsman, and it looks like what they want to do is they want to build a giant monument or statue. Then there's benefits for them doing so. Once they start building, there's a few tracks you can go down, and at the end of that track, there's victory point bonuses. There's also one called the Merrymakers, and the description of their civilization I like. It says, the Merrymakers frequently celebrate love in life, and the longer the festival, the better. And so there's tracks that you can go up to gain different benefits, and some of them are victory points, some of them are other resources. In looking through just the pictures without kind of the rule book or without the, I guess, iconography guide to tell you what is what, there is a lot of iconography in this game, and Jamie assures us it's all totally explained in the rules. It's you don't need to know it necessarily to get going with the game. So we'll see if that's actually a concern or not. A couple of the other cultures or civilizations that are mentioned here are leaders. There's also one called isolationists, and you actually get bonuses based on, I guess they want to be alone and away from everybody. So you can, when you conquer empty territory, you can put different markers in that territory, it looks like, to then prevent that other people can't conquer it or something like that. It looks really, really cool because like each one of these mats that I looked at and that I talked about here, and I've been presenting here, is they aren't presenting the same thing. They aren't giving you the same thing. It feels like there are a ton of different options, and I like that. I like the idea of the asymmetry. And now another thing that was cool about these asymmetric civilizations is Jamie said when he started developing it, he kind of went all in. He had a bunch of civilization. I mean, he talks about starting very simple, making sure the base is good. And then when he added in the civilizations, he had a bunch of ideas. And as they were playtesting, they found out that most of them were actually pretty solid and worked pretty well. So while he had originally planned to put 5 to 8 or 8 to 10 in the box, or maybe it was 6 to 8 in the box, it doesn't really matter, but pardon me, enough that you could, maybe play a game or two and have seen all the mats. That's not the case now. Because they worked so well, there's actually 16 asymmetric civilizations right in the box. That is just the tip of the iceberg as it relates to Tapestry. It sounds to me like there is so much more for Jamie to talk to us about because he has a couple weeks worth of design diaries. I have a feeling that there's just a whole lot more to it, and for it being my first Civilization game, I am really looking forward to the fact that there is not any real mean player interaction because I play most of my games with my kids, and I know at least one of them is very, very, very conflict averse and would not appeal to her at all if, someone could just swoop in and wipe her out. So everything I'm seeing about Tapestry is really, really interesting to me and looks great. And let's talk about BGG a little bit, shall we? I guess any community, really. It's not particular to BGG. I heard that Reddit is kind of a very polarized in their opinion on Tapestry. And I just want to say, if you have any strong opinions about Tapestry one way or the other, even if you're super high on it or you're super low on it, just give the design diaries a while to come out because we don't have the full picture. It's kind of interesting how I've been seeing, it's almost like whatever is being talked down about, it's almost like that is what Jamie's next design diary is about. And so on BGG, I saw somebody talking about the map, which we haven't really seen much of, just kind of in the teasers that Jamie's posted on Instagram. And you see like, here's part of the map, and then here, this one's kind of like, I'll say grayed out, but it's like white and with gray trees or whatever. It's just, it's a map. And people were saying like, there's just not much color. It's a pretty beige game or something like that. And then the very next day we see these beautiful illustrations and these beautiful colored culture cards, and it's almost like whatever the talking point is one day is totally knocked out of really the discussion the next. And so I would just tell people, basically, like I said, one way or the other, whether you're high on it or low on it, to just give it a minute. We don't know a ton about this game yet, and I know that Jamie, at least for me, has developed enough games that have really worked for me, that I've really loved, that even if there's something that I was a little bit skeptical about, I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt. But of course, that's a call that you have to make for yourself. But I'm excited about what the next several design diaries are going to bring us because, yeah, like I said, I just feel like there is so much more we don't know than what we do. And so it's going to be a fun few weeks. Let me know what you're thinking about Tapestry in the comments. Is this something that you are super excited about? Did you see anything that you were maybe down on one day and then found out more about and were excited about, or that it actually went the other way, that you were excited about the sculpts and then you weren't crazy about the paint job? I know that was one of the things that came up. Let me know in the comments what it is. What are you excited about as it relates to Tapestry? I look forward to hearing from you. So until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Thanks for watching. Bye.